Hey gang, this is Eric Shanefeldt with Local Marketing Institute. Welcome to today's Q&A session here. We're going to talk about all things local search, local marketing, social, everything in between. As always, I'm joined by my co-patriots in crime here, Ben Fisher and Jason Brown. Good to see you guys.
Hey, happy Friday. How's it going, Eric?
Good. Do we have Jason?
I think Jason is gone.
You had to drop off. Well, okay, you're stuck with Ben and me then for a little bit here. Hopefully Jason will be able to rejoin us. Must have had some technical issues on his end. But lots of questions you guys have submitted. So if you do have any additional questions for this week's session, please put them into the Q&A. Use the Q&A on Zoom. We'll be monitoring chat every now and then, but if you really want your question to get into the queue, make sure you use the little Q&A button down there at the bottom of the screen. And before we get started, just a couple of quick housekeeping as always. If you want to reach Ben, you can find him at steadydemand.com and at The Social Dude on Twitter. Jason, you can find him at reviewfraud.org and at Kaiser Holiday on Twitter. And of course, you can find me at Local Marketing Institute. If you're not yet on our email list, really hope you do join us. Go out to localmarketinginstitute.com and sign up. And then let's go back out here and take a look. Take a little break here for a second. Ben, you're saying that Jason cannot get back in?
Link no work.
Link should work. Just have him join as an attendee. Have him go to join as an attendee if he can, and if he does that, then when he's in, we can bump him up to be a presenter again. So little technical issues. We want to get Jason back on here because I got some good questions for JB as we go along here. Also, if you're not yet on our podcast and subscribe to that, hope you do go out there and subscribe to that. Oh, we got Jason back.
There he is. The incredible missing Jason Brown.
There we go. We got the man, the mystery, the legend back on.
That was weird. It kicked me out and would not let me back in. It was like trying to make me create like a new account.
I blame Amy.
Yeah, was this new?
Amy, we know you're on the broadcast. We love you. So that's okay. Anyway, do check out the podcast. Wait, what? Do check out the podcast. Also, make sure you join our Facebook group out there, Local Marketing Institute Connect. We are already off to a great start. I think it was Steven said, "Hey, thank God it's Friday." And this has been the week. Let me tell you. Well, anyway, before we get going in here, let's get ready to kick off, get to some questions. We got tons of questions that have come in. Ben, I'm just going to start with you, my friend. This is a great question that came in for you. This is from Courtney. Says that Google penalized a listing for a company I manage that serves the entire United States. It's a digital agency that serves everywhere. Why can't we say they service the entire United States in their GMB listing?
Okay, so this is actually a fairly easy answer. And the answer is that, number one, the guidelines state that a business cannot designate a service area that is more than 2 hours from their location. And this includes service area businesses. When you go ahead and you get verified, you're using an address. So 2 hours driving time, no traffic. The other thing is that while I understand, because I have an agency as well, you shouldn't be designating the entire United States. Number one, it's not a ranking factor. That's a big piece right there. Okay. So you don't need to put the entire United States. If people are going to find you, they're going to find you. And then beyond, and the other thing is if you think about it, again, you can't, it's going to take you a lot more than 2 hours to drive across the United States. So yeah, just make it your city.
I think we see this a lot. I mean, this is a question that gets asked a lot, but I wanted to bring it up again. I think we just got to remember, folks, when we're talking local marketing, we're talking local marketing. Google My Business is designed for local businesses who serve a local clientele face-to-face. It's not designed for national or international marketing purposes, or online only type businesses. So I just wanted to reiterate that. Thanks, Ben. JB, here might be a great question for you. How do I update old listings on Yext that are different from my current listing?
Yeah, well, in the Yext dashboard, they have a duplicate tab. And so usually it goes and it scans for duplicates, but you can always add in the variations in that tab of what your old business name address used to be, or you can actually include the link directly to that citation listing. Okay. And if that doesn't work, then just hit support and have them work with you.
Yeah, there you go. Easy enough. Easy enough. Here's a great question from Abigail. Any recommendations for self-serve geo-fencing? Great question. I may tackle that one if you don't mind, guys.
Go for it.
So again, hopefully everybody here knows geo-fencing and what geo-fencing is, but let me just give a quick review in case you don't. Geo-fencing is basically a form of advertising that ties into mobile device locations. So you can create literally a very specific geofence, even down to the building level or sometimes in even sections of buildings. And then you can track when people go into or out of that particular geofence. So lots of applications for that. You could track, one application I saw is that if, someone went to a car dealer, a different car dealer saw that they were at the other car dealer and actually targeted an ad talking about some of their specific car deals. You can also track if someone has seen your ad and then comes into your storefront, for example. So there's lots of applications for geofencing. I don't want to make this a whole geofencing tutorial. Most of the time, geofencing is pretty expensive if you go directly to the major providers that are out there. However, there is one that I've been working with recently that I'm kind of enjoying, Ground Truth. So Ground Truth is one. Again, I've only done some preliminary work with these, but they do have now a self-service portal, and with no contract and no minimum spend. So that's something that I think that might fit the need. I'll put that link in the chat. Check it out. If you guys do start using it, let me know. By the way, you're going to pay a little bit of a premium for this. You can go directly to some of the bigger geofence providers, actually run the ad networks, but they're typically going to do like a minimum, $5-10 grand a month ad spend for that at a minimum. So this is one. These guys are the actual primary client of the big geofence, but they've then created a interface on top that lets you do self-service. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, Stephen mentioned Agility ads. I do like those guys as well. I was just actually looking at them yesterday. So they're another good one here that you might want to check out. I don't know how well these guys compare. I don't know them as well as Ground Truth, but that's another great one, Stephen. Thanks for the recommendation. So there is that one. Ben, here's a great question. Okay. It's a great question. Tricia asks, is there a good way to report an agency that runs contests for reviews for their clients? And first of all, you want to talk about running contests to get reviews, and is that a good strategy or not?
So running contests to get reviews is definitely against the guidelines with Google My Business, and is probably one of the best ways to lose a large majority of the reviews that you've even gotten. So as an agency, you should definitely not be doing this. Reporting the actual agency itself might be a little bit difficult because you have to really be able to publicly tie the agency to the client. And that's going to be pretty difficult unless they have an entire client roster on their website. If they do, and then you can prove that the agency is the one who actually is behind it, which again might also be difficult because it could be the individual business owners that are actually implementing this. You just have to have a ton of proof. It's probably going to be more likely you'll go after the individual businesses themselves versus the actual agency. But you could always report it on what's called the 3P complaint form, but I don't think it would get anywhere. Jason, what do you think? Reporting an agency for reviews.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it would depend. It would depend on the case, like what information do you have, because I would need to see, what's really happening to see what the likelihood that, they would be punished. However, I do know that when you report a listing for, illegal review practices and running review contests, everybody that's associated with that listing does get a nice nasty little lovegram from Google telling them to knock it off. So if a bunch of listings all got that and it made its way to that agency that was managing it, you better believe somebody higher up is going to see that and have that oh crap moment. And I've seen that happen before. So
there you go. And again, just to reiterate, depending on the nature of the contest, there's a GMB implication there with their terms of service. There's also Federal Trade Commission, FTC, rules and regulations upon what's called disclosure. That if I receive something of value in exchange for review, I must disclose that in the actual review. Again, not really easily enforceable, but there have been cases out there where there have been businesses that have been, basically taken to task by the FTC and by state's attorney general. So just a little thoughts in there. Just not wise to do it.
And I think we're going to see a lot more crackdown in enforcement with the FTC guidelines and going after and penalizing businesses that are engaging in deceptive marketing practices. So word to the wise, it's going to happen. Got it.
Tagir, thank you very much for your extra information on Agility. Good information to know there about that platform. He's saying basically it's a $2,000 per month minimum and it's pretty basic. So you got to pay for a bunch of extras on top of it. So good to know. I haven't used that platform that much. JB, here's a good question for you. This is from Crystal. How would you handle a 1-star review? I'm assuming this is on Google My Business, where the reviewer changes one element of the review periodically just to bump it back up to the newest position. So someone's got a real beef with this business, it sounds like.
Yeah, that would be, if it is Google, then just come to the Google My Business community forum, create a thread with the business name, link to the profile, but make sure you specifically state that they are constantly updating the listing, because most people, when they see it, they're like, oh, it's a 1-star only rating, Google's not going to take any action of it. But if you can give us a history of like, look, this review came in at this point in time, keeps getting updated to bump up. Well, we can ask Google if that's a violation of their terms of service, and depending on the platform, I mean, most platforms will have something about, terms of service violations for doing that. And, because it's considered at that point, like targeted harassment. Forget it with Facebook, I haven't seen Facebook be able to do really much. And, they're my least favorite. I mean, I know everybody hates Yelp, but honestly, when it comes to the book of faces, I'm just kind of like,
Ben, any other thoughts on that one?
No, that one's a pretty easy one, right?
Okay.
Go to the community.
Yeah, bottom line, you go to the community, report it, get it removed.
Document everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we had talked a couple weeks ago about UTM tracking and kind of what that was and what are some of the best practices about it. And we promised that we'd get back to it, and we weren't able to when Joy was here a couple weeks ago. But the question came up again, what are some of the best practices for UTM tracking? So let me first talk about quickly here what UTM tracking is. I also want to share a little guide here that a couple folks have done. So I'm going to go back to Google. Google has a little UTM campaign builder. UTM tracking allows you to look at where traffic is coming from within Google Analytics. So within Google Analytics, if you look at a business there, you can look for source, medium, you can look at other things that are there as well. So you can look and see where your traffic is coming from to your website. And so a lot of times you want to see, well, how is traffic getting to my website from my Google My Business listing specifically? But all that is kind of lumped generically into Google organic search. So that's what UTM tracking does. You can append these little parameters to the end of your URL, And then you can look in Google Analytics and see where people are coming from. By the way, this works great for Facebook ads. I always recommend it. Always append that, or other sources as well, where you can add these UTM, especially your email. Email, you should always append UTMs on that as well. Otherwise, it goes into the direct unknown category. So this is something that you may want to do. By the way, little trivia, UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Mechanism.
You had to pull that one out, huh?
I had to pull that one out. There you go. There's your trivia. Hey, it's Friday, trivia night. If you're going somewhere, that's what UTM stands for, Urchin Tracking Mechanism. So
come on, go over the history. How'd that happen? Come on.
How'd it happen? Well, so Urchin is what Google Analytics was before Google bought it. Google bought Urchin and turned it into Google Analytics, and they just never changed the parameter UTM. So that's where UTM comes from. There you go. Now you learned something new. But getting back into it, what's the best practices for assigning UTMs to various places in your Google My Business listing? Claire Carlisle has a really good guide out there. We'll put that link in the chat here again. This is a really excellent guide overall to UTM. She has of course I like that one. She has a couple different thoughts on how to do it. She really goes into Google Posts and things like this, how to tag Google products, things like that. So all these different ways to tag and do it. This is a great resource. Joy also has a really good article on how to track Google Posts using UTM variables. I'll put that in here. Miranda, I'm glad you liked my little UTM nerd fact. It certainly was a little nerd fact there. Urchin tracking module. Okay, Willie, you had to, yeah, okay. Urchin tracking module. So I was wrong. Not mechanism, but module.
Potato, come on.
I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong. Willie, keep me honest, man. Keep me honest. I also wrote a whole section here in the Google My Business checklist we have on Local Marketing Institute. Keep in mind that this is woefully out of date. I'm embarrassed. I got to update this, but there's still some good information in here on the ways to do it. But let me walk through it and then we'll move on. I highly recommend that you go to the campaign URL builder. This is actually Google's tool. I'll put that in the chat here as well. Go to that tool, put the website where you're going to link to right there in website URL. And let me bump this up in size a bit here. Once you've got that in there, you're going to want to put Google as the campaign source and organic as the medium. So those you do not want to change. That's going to keep it so that you don't accidentally look like the organic traffic has fallen off the map of your site when you're diverting. So keep Google, keep organic. That's the source, that's the medium. Here's where the things get interesting. But now you can add other parameters. So for the campaign name, I like to include in here the type of link. So, and I think Claire talks about the same thing, right? So if it's a primary link, right here, your primary website link, then mark it with, primary as the campaign name. If it's a menu link or something like that, put menu in here. If it's from Google Posts, put posts as the campaign name. That will help you differentiate what specific sections of your Google My Business listing is sending traffic to your location. And then campaign content. Actually, I'm sorry. This should be like GMB posts. GMB posts, GMB web, GMB whatever. You got to preface it with GMB. If you don't do that, then you can't really identify this as from GMB. So my apologies, I forgot to add that in. So always it's GMB post, GMB primary, GMB services, menu, whatever it may happen to be. Then if these two down here are really going to be optional. These two down here, you could say, okay, for if you're using a post, I like to do the year, month, date, 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2 months date, dash post type, if you want to get that granular, dash post title. That way I can see exactly which post was driving me. And then I could even do a little filter and see which post types are driving it. I'm getting really anal here, but I wanted to show us how you could do this. And then the other thing you want to do is if you're multi-location business, you may have multiple locations that link into the same website. I like to put whatever you use for your location ID there underneath the campaign term. So that's my typical recommendations. Ben, Jason, you have any thoughts on this?
So I'm a big believer in UTM tagging all the things, right? As a matter of fact, I want to go explore the whole UTM tagging of the phone number and call rail. I want to take a look into that, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's in Clara's.
I was going to show this is
guide.
Yeah, not just for posts, but you can also do here. Where is it here?
I think it was up a little bit under like new or something like that. Yeah, there it is, right there.
You can tag your phone number if you're using something like CallRail.
Right, exactly. The big problem that I see with doing UTMs for most businesses is that if you're doing a lot of posts, mainly posts, right? If you're doing a lot, then getting that information in there, like term or content, et cetera, is pretty difficult. However, if you keep it standardized and stick with the basics, GMB posts, organic on Google, then you can now see where conversions are coming from. And that is super important when you're starting to decide whether GMB is important for your business or not. And, because Google's not going to tell you this. So you need to figure it out yourself. So yeah, I absolutely say do it. I say do it. Do the basics at the very minimum. I've seen large chains like people who like Auto for also will do it, where they will definitely change the campaign name. So that way they have the date and they have like a vehicle or a model or something like that, because they're going to make conversions and they want to go ahead and sort by date and such and see, okay, well, how many cars have we sold this month because of a Google My Business post or because of Google My Business in general. So anyway, I love it.
At the very minimum, do this. Your website, Google as a source, organic as the medium, and then GMB as the campaigning. As the very minimum, do that. Use that for all your different links. You'll be able to then go in and look at the campaign of GMB in Google Analytics. You'll see all the traffic. But when we were talking about, hey, if you want to add in like, primary or GMB posts, right? If you want to start doing that, you can then break it down even further. And then you can break it down even further by the actual post itself or the location ID. So there you go. Hopefully that helps. But Colette, yeah, Ben, I think I saw you answer this out here. Colette did ask, hey, I've tried to track our website on GMB using UTMs, but Google always reverts it back to our regular website URL after a while. What's going on?
Yeah, and like I was saying in chat, that's usually going to be some software that's making the change. It depends on what the strike looks like, basically. If it's solid orange, then that's actually a Google. That's like Google seeing it on another website and reverting it for you. That one's a little bit more of a pain. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I would go out, check your citations, check your website. Really very important there. Check your website. And just, make sure that the data is consistent, because Google will just grab stuff from some certain locations, scrape it, and then say, well, we think it's this. If it's a gray strike, it's a user update. So that's probably not going to be it. And if it's an orange strike, that's another Google update. So but that's optional. So I would just check everything basically.
But that's a good usual rule of thumb, that if you're seeing data in your GMB listing or Apple Maps listing or whatever listing, getting changed back to something, you're probably connected to some sort of a tool. Like in this case, Ben, you talked about Yext is probably overriding the changes you made within Google My Business.
Exactly. What's that setting, JB?
In Yext, every time you make an update to any part of your knowledge panel for one of your listings, so say you update your hours, or you add a new photo or new cover photo. As soon as you do that, Yext pushes out all of that data across the board everywhere. So they did come up with a way that you can actually implement UTMs. And so you can actually parse out which citation you want updated with whatever information you wanted, because they knew that UTMs was important and they couldn't do it. So you just need to go in there and set it up specifically set up your profile just for GMB, same way that you would do it with like categories, because like not all platforms have the same categories across the board.
Yep. Stephen asked if we use the full UTM URL or if you convert it to a short link. I have never done it with a short link. I think I've always done it with the full URL and haven't run into any problems. Ben, you guys encountered that, or Jason?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you convert this to a short link or actually use the full UTM encoded URL?
No, you use the full encoded URL. I mean, technically, you want to do it. You don't want to put something there that's going to cause an extra hop, basically, like through a bit.ly. And technically forwarder, well, in the case, no, it's going to the right destination page, so it's okay. I was going to say forwarders are against the guidelines, but if they go to the right destination page, they're okay. Anyway, but no, I wouldn't do a bit.ly on this at all. And not to mention, if you do a bit.ly, you'll probably get suspended.
Yep.
Yeah, stick with the same URL because they're going to really look at that key domain down there. All right, let's keep moving on here. And we're addressing the questions in the order that we got them here, some of the preset questions people asked. Ben, here's a good one for you, I think. We'll start with that. Martina says, if you have a physical storefront with signage, but work mostly as a service area business, kind of home restoration or plumber, should we delete our address from the info section on GMB? Why or why not? This has been a discussion of great debate in our office.
Well, let me kill this debate for you. All right. First of all, I do want to make a warning, just a little public service announcement. Going from a service area based business to a storefront, or even vice versa, can cause a suspension. Depends on category, though, so you probably don't need to worry about that too much. It sounds like you're legit, so again, don't worry. But how to answer this question? The answer is very simply, it is based on your business model. This is how Google My Business looks at everything when it comes to addresses. So being that you are a plumber, basically, as if you ever have people that come to your storefront as customers, then it's wise to show the address. Now, that being said, if you really don't want people showing up, because I mean, come on, you have 24/7, you probably have an answering service, all of that, you're doing service all the time, not within stated hours. So therefore, a service area business is probably a good idea if you want to list 24 hours and you don't want somebody coming to your location. If you have somebody there to take appointments, sure, of course, you can absolutely be a storefront. But anyway, that's really the basics of it. It's all about business model. There is no hard, fast rule. Google's not going to tell you, oh, you have signage, you must show your address. That's not their job. So it sounds like you're traveling down the right path. And as long as if you want to have 24 hours, you don't want people going to your address necessarily, like customers. If that's your business model, then sure, clear your address.
Jason, any other thoughts on that?
No. Ben,
Keep
Ben,
it simple.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We get asked about, address showing or hiding your address, and I mean, predominantly, my rule of thumb and the biggest one is that it makes sure if you're using your home address and you don't have signage, hide your address. Don't set up an SAB at a co-working space, because Google's not liking that. That's where, if you are using a co-working space, you want to have an executive office, but you're going to have your address showing because they will suspend and, if you do hide it. So, that's pretty much.
I was just picking on you, Jason, because I just love it. I just love how blunt you are. Like, no, I'm done. Nothing. Move on. Okay. Well, so Jason, here's a good one for you. I have a client who can't officially open until October, as they've signed a non-compete contract, but they want to get started doing various things, including their GMB listing. Can we start putting the listing together and start the verification process, but not to do the final verification so it doesn't go live until she verifies, which is interesting. I don't know why they wouldn't want to go live ahead of time, but maybe it's because of the non-compete.
Yeah, well, okay. So I thought I knew the answer to this one, and it's a little different. If they're not allowed to have their listings show up until that compete is over, then no, then they can't do it. Normally, you can create a Google My Business listing ahead of time, get it verified, and just put it as a future open date. They would have to find out if that company's going to be fine with it, because I think Google starts ranking the listing about 2 weeks before you open. So, but it will definitely state opening in October, right? So as long as it works for that, they can do that. But if it doesn't work, then yeah, you can set up the Google My Business listing and then wait for that pinned postcard to show up, on the day before or day after you're going to open. However, Google has been sending out notices that if a listing stays dormant for X amount of period of time, they will send you an email saying, look, either verify this listing or remove it, or we're going to remove it for you within 30 days. So
I got one thing to add to this. So basically, yeah, you've got 3 months, like Jason was saying, to set the forward opening date, right? The thing is that if you, now we're not lawyers, so we can't really speak to the whole non-compete issue, but we can speak to opening. And if you get a verification card, you've got 30 days from the time that you requested the verification card to go ahead and enter the PIN. Mm-hmm. So technically, what you could do is you could just wait, and when your non-compete is coming up, hold it, and then just time it, basically. So that's the way I would do it.
All right, there we go. And just to reiterate what Ben and Jason said, you can create a GMB listing for a business that is going to open down the road. And there are guidelines for that actually out in the Google My Business help documents for that. Here's a good one, which I'll tackle. John says, hey guys, what's the best way to utilize the services feature on a hotel's GMB listing? Like massages for a price or afternoon tea that would show up. Would this be viewable? So John, I'm going to actually direct you to our Facebook group because we're going to go out there to the Hotel Whisperer, Tim Capper. He's another Google My Business product expert out there. He's a really smart guy. He's on the Facebook group. So go to Facebook and look for Local Marketing Institute Connect. Join it. You can even tag Tim Capper in your question. I'm sure he'd be able to get back to you and have tons of great ideas for you on what you should do with that. So moving right along here. Let's see here. Ben, here's a good one here. Why would a GMB listing with poor reviews or no website rank higher than a GMB business with good reviews and a website, plus many other aspects of GMB filled out?
All right. So we get this question a lot. So this is going to sound like a canned answer because it kind of is. But basically what it comes down to is that, a GMB listing is SAB, right? It was an SAB, right? Or was it just brand new, Eric?
I didn't say.
Okay. All right. So a listing that has just come out can rank for so many different reasons. It doesn't just come down to one or two, right? It's not going to come down to, let's say, well, like you were saying, reviews or a website. You can't just isolate ranking results like this. And so really, take a look at other things. Take a look at the categories. Maybe they're using multiple categories. Their name, is their name stuffed with keywords? Keywords can have a huge impact. We see listings where you put them up, you put in an exact match keyword, San Diego personal injury attorney, and guess what? It's going to rank for San Diego personal injury attorney. That's just the way it is. If the category is set, etc. So again, while these things are ranking factors, you have to take in a look to everything that they're doing, and sometimes there is no rhyme or reason. JB, go.
I've seen too many situations where a brand new listing is going to rank because that website. But so people forget the fact that your actual website is going to have a whole emphasis in on your rankings, right? So if your website is not properly optimized for your keywords, your geolocation, you're not using local schema, your page titles are misaligned, it just says home, or you're linking to the wrong page, that's going to be a detractor for your actual physical rankings of Google My Business, right? So you have to look at a holistic approach as to how your Google My Business listing is set up. How are your citations? Is there bad data out there? Are you using different telephone numbers in different spots? And so you really got to dot your I's and cross your T's in order to have your Google My Business listing. But just because you have more reviews than the other guy, that's not a ranking factor, right? You're only going to get a certain amount of a boost from a handful of reviews, and after that, it's a placebo, and that's going to be more for customers that are researching you, where they want to see more fresh and current views. But just because your listing has been around forever and a day, and a brand new listing comes up with no website, well, it's actually better optimized not having that website, not having that history and that footprint.
I think there's a couple other things here. I mean, the number one issue is it's also proximity. Yeah. I mean, what if this particular business was, 4 or 5 miles closer than the other business? Proximity is obviously a huge factor.
Or even a couple hundred feet.
Yeah, in ranking. So proximity is a huge factor. But I think, Ben, one of the things you also said there also resonated with me is I would also immediately check that listing for any spam. Are they loading keywords into the title, for example, of the business, the name of the business, and check that as well. That can have a big impact.
Absolutely, because then
you can report
if they are, you can report it. You can even the playing field, and you can knock them straight out of the water.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Okay, JB, a good one for you. This is from Pete. We've had disgruntled terminated employees leave terrible reviews on GMB. I've asked for the removal before with no response. I've since heard that this is a violation of Google rules since they weren't actually a customer. What's a good way to get these off our GMB listing?
Yeah, so it is a violation of Google's terms of service, but Google has no way to enforce it, which is the sad, which is really sad. So we used to be able to get a lot of these reviews removed by able to show documentation, but since GDPR came in and Google is very sensitive about private information being shared, they've made it super difficult for us to be able to do stuff. So, I mean, you can come to the Google My Business community forum. We can try and take a look, but it's one of those things where we've been pushing back on Google a lot on this one because we're like, it's clear, it's in the guidelines that it's a violation, but we don't have a mechanism for reporting it. And, and so that's just kind of one of those things that we're looking into. It could also be one of those things where, I recommend everybody reaches out to a lawyer to find out what the legal options you have there. Because, I mean, it might be one of those things where you could, get a lawyer involved, but then you have the potential for the backlash of it. And it's like, how much effort do you want to use to go after it? I also recommend that you respond to the review in a polite and professional manner, but I would definitely say, unfortunately, this is not a customer and this is a former employee, and hopefully people will see that and realize that, it is disgruntled. But maybe there'll be language in it where they'll say, I was let go or I used to be work there, then that's a good chance that you'll be able to get that review removed.
Couple things here.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I just want to say really quickly. So, I know I have seen cases where Google will not remove any ex-employees or review if they're using like their real name. It's even identifiable, and they are talking about the experience only. Now, that's very rare, by the way, because most ex-employees will actually talk about the owner or somebody that's there, and they'll name them by name. So there's that piece. But the other piece is that, as with anything with reporting something to Google My Business, you have to come with proof. Now, you can't just use somebody's W-2 because like Jason was saying, it's PII, personal identifiable information. They don't want to see it. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to get involved in it. Okay. But if that employee is on LinkedIn, okay, and they haven't updated their profile yet, screenshot and a link.
Or even if it was in their history of their employment.
Exactly. Right. That is pretty much your silver bullet And most people, when they leave their job, do not go ahead and delete that job. So I would look there, and in any place that you can find that kind of information.
Yeah, just not every job, is one of those things where you're going to put it on your LinkedIn resume, or you may not even be using LinkedIn too.
So I want to throw one other little thought here. And this is something that I had a great discussion with Aaron Weike, who was the former CEO of GatherUp, a big review management platform out there. He also threw out, so there's something that in this particular question that caught my attention. We've had disgruntled, terminated employees, multiple. So I don't know if that means 2 or more than 2 or whatever. But one of the things that Aaron was talking about is that the reviews aren't just reviews for the consumer, but they're also a reflection back to the business about their own business. And it's wise to listen to those. And if you've got disgruntled former employees, why are they disgruntled? And now I'm not going to throw this out here and say that this is a bad business, but I would immediately start looking and saying, is there something with the way that we're running our business? Is there something with the way that we're handling, end of employment with employees that's causing these people that are disgruntled former employees to leave us bad reviews? So I'll throw that out there for what it's worth. I find the business, I actually would want to get those removed, but hey, it's also an opportunity for me to take a little bit of self-reflection and say, is there something going on with our business and our business practices that this is actually making me aware of that we should address? So I'll throw that out there for what that's worth. I thought that was a good insight from Aaron out there. Okay, tons more questions here. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Here's a good one from Max. What's the best way to delist a rank and rent site? So I don't know, which one of you guys wants to tackle that one? Let's show the JB tackle that one.
Go ahead, Jace.
Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is, if it's a GMB listing, you want to do the suggested edit, mark it as spam offensive, and then if that doesn't work, then you want to use the redressal form. So you'll want to grab the CID. You'll want to grab the CID. There's a couple great tools that you can use. You can use the GatherUp Chrome extension, or you can use the Tom Waddington's tool company identifier, and then grab the CID, report the listing, and then have the team go and look at it. It usually takes them about 7 to 14 days, maybe 10 to 14 days, depending on the queue or the backlog. And then if it hasn't been addressed, then you can come to the Google My Business Community Forum after 2 weeks and ask us to ask Google to take a further look at it. But yeah, there's a lot of rank and rents that just keep popping up. So I spend a lot of my free time battling these knuckleheads and knocking out their networks. I think Ben and I tag team a project, and we took out 3,400 lead gen listings across the United States. And
define rank and rent, because that may be a term that not everybody's familiar with.
Yeah, so it's a lead gen listing. So they'll create a listing, and let's just say it's garage door repair near me, or it's Ben's garage door and then city. And so they're not real listings, they're not real businesses, and you call that number and you're being routed to a call center, and they just answer garage door, and they're like, yeah, we'll have the technician call you. And then Eric's company, calls you back and says, yeah, we'll come out there and do this stuff. So they're not. So the company that you're calling is not the company that you're getting and dealing with. And usually those listings are, got a bunch of fake positive reviews to make themselves look good.
They're lead gen sites. They're duping customers into thinking they're a local business, getting the leads, and then selling them to legitimate businesses.
Correct.
Yep.
So the big thing here is that, everything that Jason just said is 100% on tap as far as process goes. A couple things to add to that. If you come to the Google My Business Forum community with your case ID, do not include any information about the businesses that you reported in that case. So we don't want to see it. We don't want to hear it. More importantly, you don't want the exposure. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want these lead gen companies getting on your case.
These rank and rent people are making some serious cash, and they will send you a nasty gram that includes dismembering you and doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I've also seen
the
like
same
that.
ones go against anybody who complains against them, and going out and launching a negative review campaign against them. So
there's that. So the other thing is, the last thing is that you just want to document as much information as possible. You're probably definitely not going to find a Secretary of State entry. If you call them, if it is legal, consult your lawyer, look at the laws. But look at the wiretapping laws, record it. Okay. Send that recording to GMB. If they have an address showing, go to that address, take pictures, take a video, show the outside area, etc. Show that there is no signage there indeed. So when you tie these things together, it may seem like a lot, but it's almost guaranteed to knock your listings out.
Yeah. And if it's especially egregious, hey guys, reach out to Ben and Jason directly. They can help you with this, and then you don't have to post anything online, and that's part of what they're really good at doing here. Here's a good one from Nate. I have a client that recently started their own business, trying to target more B2B instead of B2C. Asking overall, what are some strategies that they could use? Would it be beneficial to set up a Google My Business listing? Let's talk about the Google My Business listing for B2B versus B2C. I'll throw this out. I think B2B works just fine for Google My Business if you are indeed addressing a local clientele. Right. So, for instance, I've seen CPAs who do nothing but work with other businesses, or HR firms who just do nothing but work with other businesses within a particular region. That's an example of a B2B company. I've also seen consultants who will create GMB listings, and they're business consultants working primarily within their local region. What are your guys' thoughts on that? B2B versus B2C?
First off, there's no such thing as B2B. It's all B2C. So no matter what you're doing with your business model, you are a business working with consumers. Whether that consumer is just businesses, it's still B2B. Or I'm sorry, B2C. So, but yeah, like Eric said, as long as it is a business where you are local, you are either going to your customers or they are coming to you, and you're having that interaction, it'll be fine. When it starts getting, into the areas where it's not going to be allowed is when it's just more straight, an e-commerce online only business model.
So B2B is real for B2B marketers, right? But the thing is that if you're a B2B company, you're probably not doing business locally. You're probably doing business nationally or across multiple states. That's a reality for B2B. So while you might have a local presence, which allows you to have a GMB, the business that you're looking for is out there. So what I recommend there is use your GMB listing basically like a business card. It's got your reviews on it. Leverage that. That's where you're going to drive new prospects. You can also put up photos. You can put up product posts that explain things even more. And so, at that point is now you're just directing people to your Google My Business listing just to find out more information while they're in the consideration phase.
Okay. Let's go through another one here. Let's see. Here's a good one. So this is kind of, we talked about this, about someone wanting to rank a business for the whole United States, but this is another one from Susan says, so this is an LSA question. How do I then handle a service area that is more than 2 hours away from the corporate office? Guidelines say you shouldn't add services outside of 2 hour radius to the business, obviously, but how do I then handle this?
So again, the service area that you designate does not impact ranking. So you don't need to set it, I guess, is really what it comes down to. However, I think really the question you're asking is how do I get a local presence all over the United States? That's what most people want.
Or maybe it's like here in Colorado where you've got like a well drilling service out in Eastern Colorado and they service all Eastern Colorado, right? They're not trying to do all over the United States, but you can drive 3 hours here and still stay within the state, for example. Sure,
absolutely. But most people, when they're asking this question, they're like, why am I not ranking all over the place? Right. That's right. Usually what it is. We see it in California, right? Or Texas or Florida, large stretches where it is definitely more than 2 hours. And you're allowed to have, multiple locations in larger states. You still need to make sure that you are playing by the guidelines and the rules, and you still have control over what kind of address that you have. You have to have be able to prove it. But that's really, the answer is more locations. That really is what it comes down to. But you have to pay attention to the guidelines.
Yeah. The other point is that this is where ads come in. You could spend a whole time and effort opening up a new location, time and money, or you could spend a whole lot of time and money and effort, trying to skirt the rules and reduce the risk, or spend that time, money, and effort and do the Google ads, do the right Facebook ads. There's other ways to go after that, and that's what advertising is there for. Advertising is not an evil word if used in the right way, by the way.
I love advertising.
Okay. Here's a great question by Michelle. JB, I'll throw someone out to you. What do you do if legitimate ungated reviews aren't being posted to a GMB listing?
So right now there are a lot of reviews that are getting filtered out. We keep raising the issue. Google says that, this is working as intended. We're not buying it. We're still pushing back. So we have the Google team looking into investigating why there's a whole spate of reviews in the last few weeks not getting posted. So we're definitely trying to get answers. So we're pushing back on it with the team, but we don't have an answer right now. So maybe in a couple of weeks we might have a better answer. But honestly, we've run tests. We've seen it where, the review won't get posted under one account and then it'll get posted under another account and it'll go. I think there's a wildly inaccurate misinformation campaign going on right now where people are saying that it's only impacting local guide accounts. But look, we're, us SEOs, we grasp at straws, we do the chicken little, we try to come up with, 2 + 2 to be 5 a lot of the times. And so we haven't seen any evidence that it's only, impacting local guide accounts, but, it's something that Google definitely needs to investigate. So that's kind of where it's at right now.
Okay, you guys ready?
Do it.
Lightning round.
Oh,
we're going to answer as many of these as quickly as we can, okay? All right, here's one from Gavin. Is it logical to predict that eventually products and services will eventually link to specific pages on your website?
You already can.
And go.
You already can with products. Services, don't know.
All right. Okay, here's one of my clients has a 1-star review because a potential customer thinks the clients are thinks the services are too expensive. Do you think, is this something that I could potentially get removed? The reviewer was never a customer and alleging that the client is scamming people because their prices are too high.
No.
Can't get it reviewed. And the answer is because it's personal opinion of the experience with that business, even if they weren't actually a customer. Is that correct?
Because they wanted, right. Because they wanted to be a customer of that business. That was the intention. So
Ben, looks like you have a different thought.
No, actually, I'm 100% agreed. It's experience, right? So
it is still a person. Just because they weren't a customer, it is still that person's experience with that particular business.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Here's one from John. Ben, take this one. Hey guys, we had an issue where twice in a row we set up a call to gain access to a GMB listing, and the PIN code given on the call didn't work. Any ideas on what might be happening? Have you heard of this?
No, I would go ahead and raise that on the community. Well, actually, no, you're going to have to do it again because even if you come to the community, it's not going to really help. If it fails a third time, come up with all your cases and, maybe a screenshot of like one of the emails where they said, let's set up a time or let's request a video verification. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was kind of getting towards.
Oh, sorry.
But it sounds like they were already doing video verification of some kind.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I would try it again.
All right. Any thought on GMB updating their business hours to by appointment only?
No.
Not yet.
Okay. Easy one. All right, this is a little more in-depth one, but we'll go ahead and do it. Can you comment a little bit about CID links, when to use them and when not to use them? We'll end on that question.
When to use them and when not to use them. Put it on your website. The CID redirects to your maps listing. So if your maps place ID ever changes, the CID will still get to the proper location. Otherwise, it's not very useful unless you're reporting spam or just documenting your listing.
Right. So it doesn't really give you any advantage to using the CID link or not in terms of relationship building or entity building out there or anything like that.
And don't build links to it, by the way.
Okay. All right. All right, guys. Hey, apologize for a few more questions that could come in. Really appreciate them. We'll put them on the queue for next week. But that's all the time we have for today. Ben, Jason, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
And to everyone who showed up and was here in the session, really appreciate you all. This is why we're doing it. We're doing it to help you guys out. And so we definitely appreciate you guys being part of these sessions. We will see you next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.